Yo guys, welcome to the Zelda fiction. Today we are gonna see, what if Naruto got mass harem with Luffy and becomes the dragon god? Huge shout out to by legendary Nio. For this story. If you end up liking this video, please consider subscribe, so without further ado, let's get into the video. Dusan, Kasan. A red-haired boy with deep violet eyes thought sobbing looking at his parents' dead bodies while he fought off any restraining hands from the servants and marines while others gave him sad, pitying looks at his loss. He is Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, heir of one of the families from the 20 kingdoms, unlike most families who would be greedy, arrogant, and spiteful to other races. The Uzumaki Namikaze family treated them like family and never followed the ways of other noble families and fought to promote peace, but this also led to other families hating their ways, which ended up with Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki dead in their home by unknown means, leaving their child Naruto broken emotionally. Mentally, his deep violet eyes filled with despair, rage, and sorrow. Naruto-sama. Please, you mustn't do this, you'll cause yourself more pain. One of the most loyal slaves of the family pleaded him, her heartbreaking at the sight of such a young kind boy, sobbing his heart out at his parents' death, and stopped seeing some marines come over to grab her only for Naruto's voice to cut through the noise like a sword. Back away. Naruto hissed coldly, his violet orbs now holding nothing but icy coldness in them that made him seem like someone else, causing some marines, even captains, to shiver and sweat, while the admirals look at the boy in shock and fear from the feeling of power raging around him. We only came to take away the slave responsible for this gak. One cried out in pain, making others back away from Naruto, who lodged his fist in his gut, causing the man to cough up blood with not a shred of remorse or forgiveness in his voice. You really think I would fall so easy for that, you simpleton? My parents treat our slaves like family, and I know Penny would not do this. He said in a cold voice, the feeling of power increasing only for him to calm down, his eyes closed. Get out now. He ordered emotionlessly, making them run for their lives, leaving the slaves looking at Naruto in a new light, especially Penny, who felt her admiration and respect for her master soar at how fiercely he defended her, while some admirals and marines gave him nods of respect as he marched through the corridors with cold determination in his voice. He saw the door open where the ones who were investigating his parents' murder were talking and stopped hearing hushed voices, and what he heard made his blood boil. Finally, we got this pathetic slave lovers out of the way of the celestial dragons, said one of the marines in an arrogant way, making Naruto vow to kill him painfully. You idiot, Obito-sama paid us to take care of that gaki too. Did you see the coldness in his eyes? Not even a Koji Taicho has eyes like that, and he looked like he would kill one of us in a fit of rage. One of them said fearfully, getting a predatory smirk from the redhead and instilling fear in their ranks. Enough. As soon as we get the order, we are to capture all of the slaves along with Naruto to serve the celestial dragons. Is that clear? A third voice ordered, getting huffs from the other two, not knowing their conversation was heard. Naruto dashed down the hallways to one place that his parents told him about could only be opened by the descendants of Siegfried Uzumaki Namikaze, and planned to get his revenge on the world government, and reached his destination looking upon the walls with pictures of dragons in their mighty glory until he saw a huge door with a kanji for dragon in the middle. It is time I show the government what happens when you mess with family, he said coldly before he bit his finger and swiped blood across the door, watching as it glowed and opened slowly, showing a dark room with a shining light, showing a golden fruit radiating power that matched Naruto's. He walked toward it in a trance, like he felt it calling to him, soon reaching the pedestal, looking at the fruit in amazement and also, this is our family's legendary Raijin no Mi. He thought in awe before picking it up slowly and bit into it, making his eyes widen at the heavenly taste before quickly devouring it, and suddenly felt his body burn and rage with power, his mind racing with fury, only to stamp it down. No way was he going to let a fruit control him before he activated the one thing that only his grandfather had achieved. Hami no Ishi, God's will. He smirked as a golden flame-like aura blasted from him like a raging fire, shaking the entire island of Mariagewa, startling everyone except the cheering slaves who realized their master had awoken his true heritage. 5 minutes later. Penny along with the slaves were looking worried as the marines were advancing toward them with explosive collars in their hands, while the admirals looked on smugly only for a massive weight to fall on them, filling their beings with terror, looking behind them to the marines' horror, and the slaves' awe and glee, and knew Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze standing at 4'9" skin. His normally red hair turned to a silver white with a fringe covering one of his eyes that were now a golden amber with a slit in the middle, and had small fangs jutting from his upper lip in a cold, cruel smirk. Naruto-sama, Penny whispered, getting a soft smile from Naruto that made her blush before his eyes turned predatory as he laid his eyes on the shaking marines and let his power explode, making some of their heads explode while others fell unconscious and screamed in terror as Naruto's fists were engulfed in gold-white flames. Naruto grinned sadistically, it is time I show the government not to funk with family. He roared before blurring with inhuman speed invisible to everyone and began raining blows, using the fighting style of the fish people taught to him by his teacher Jinbei, and literally launched waves of gravity, causing their bodies to explode in gore and blood, while causing explosions to rain on the island. Alerting the slaves. Naruto soon finished the last marine by decapitating him with his new control of wind, before turning to the slaves who were kneeling before him with respect which touched him completely. "Stand up, guys." He spoke softly, getting looks of surprise from them before obeying, standing at attention like soldiers. He looks over the slaves of his family including Penny, who was blushing when looking at him. "Listen up. For too long have you been turned into nothing more than slaves for the celestial dragons on the lands of Mariajwa." He roared angrily, getting roars of approval and respect at the gathering slaves. His grin soon turned sad before turning to his parents' bodies and picked them up, taking them outside to the backyard filled with beautiful flowers and a serene atmosphere before using his powers to create a grave for them and a headstone. "Here lies Minato, Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki. Two proud loving parents. Rest in peace." Naruto smiled with tears running down his face. "I promise to honor your memory, Ka-san-tu-san." He thought silently before his eyes turned cold as he turned toward the slaves who had eyes of cold chips as well, with a look of hard revenge in them. "Free the others. I am going to slaughter every last one of these filthy marines, and I want you to get your revenge for my Ka-san and Tu-san." He yelled as his Kami no Ishi shined, giving him the appearance of an angry god, and the slaves, his soldiers roaring with determination and fury before running to the other houses to free the slaves, while Naruto brought out his mother and father's swords, Yamato and Alistair, one crackling purple lightning, the other with azure blue lightning humming, as if ready to spill blood for their master as he walks out ready to spill the blood of his enemies. "Let's begin," he said coldly as the alarms around the island flared loudly as the screams of the marine sounded death evident in the air. One marine spotted Naruto and alerted the others to his position and opened fire at him, only for the bullets to stop as he put a hand on Yamato and quickly slashed the air and resheathed it. Nothing happened for a few seconds before they screamed as they began to fall to pieces with flames burning them, instantly getting looks of awe from the rallying slaves, who quickly picked up the guns left by the deceased officers and began raining shots of death while roaring flames and explosions came from the island as Naruto advanced along with his servants and soon came upon the one family that caused the death of his parents. "Ryubido," he said coldly as a bunch of people in white scuba diving gear with helmets on their heads shaking like a leaf with anger and fear on their faces, except the women who had nothing but innocence in their eyes, which caused him to come to the conclusion that the women and girls never followed the others' arrogant ways and decided to spar them. "So which one of you scum was the one that ordered some of these filthy marines to poison my parents?" he said venomously, making a couple of twins point their guns at him, only to cry out in pain from their arms, exploding in a gore of blood, with Naruto's hand surrounded by a whitish fear, a cold look in his eye. "Your family had no place as one of the noble families. Their ways is not befitting of a noble, so they had to be eliminated," a fat one said arrogantly, only for Naruto's aura to flare even more loudly as his eyes now burned with bloodlust and rage before dashing forward at blinding speeds toward the screaming nobles and began hacking them apart with a viscous snarl and decapitated the last one. Naruto sighed before his eyes turned a little soft, eyeing the women who were pleading for him to spare them. "Please leave the island, ladies. I don't want to have the blood of women and children on my hands. Only those who deserve it will meet their end at my hand. Now please go. I know my mother and father were friends with you at least," he said elegantly, getting grateful nods as they fled the island, just as a man named Tiger leapt beside Naruto. "How is the evacuation of the slaves coming, Tiger?" he said instantly, going back to his cold mask, getting a nod from Tiger, who reported about all the slaves already on the boats and said none have died, which made Naruto happy that none of his family fell in battle. "Naruto, we have another problem. Garp, Akainu and Sengoku are heading this way to stop the boats from leaving," he said grimly, only too for his spine to get a shiver as Naruto let out a cold, amused chuckle at hearing three bugs attempting to capture his family before he stopped with an amused look and turned to Penny, Tiger and the others. "All of you head to the boats. I'll meet you there shortly. I need to instill the fear of Kami in the world government, but before that, Penny," he shouted, getting a perk nod from her, "get all of my parents' money and belongings from the scroll," he ordered, getting a nod as she dashed inside the burning house before leaping out the window with a large bag and a scroll in her hand and handed them to Naruto, who took out 5 million berry, since his family was the richest of the ancient kingdom, and handed it to Penny while she and the others had shocked looks. "Naruto-sama, we can't take it. This is your parents' money," she tried to argue, only for Naruto raise his finger to her lips, getting a blush which he smiled at softly. "I won't be coming with you. I want to go out and train to protect my precious people. Take the boat and get to Neptune's home, where you will be staying, and tell Shirahoshi I'll meet her someday. Now go." He ordered, getting tearful nods before they dashed down the road to the boats with him following behind at a slower pace and quickly got them on the boat and watched as the air bubbles sprouted around the ships and watched them descend into the water and had to watch a painful scene at Penny screaming his name and tears which made him shed a tear. "I promise to see you again, Penny-chan." He promised before sensing 3 people behind him already knowing who it was before the air turned cold around them. "So Garp Nugate, Sengoku and Akainu graced me with their audience, how very honoring," he said coldly, making them flinch at the cold bitterness in his voice. "Boy, are you responsible for this?" Akainu yelled at Naruto, who chuckled coldly, making their bodies shiver in terror at the coldness in someone so young's voice. "Why yes, Lieutenant Akainu, did you really think I would let the murderers of my family leave this island alive?" He smirked cruelly, making Akainu seethe in rage at this child killing his comrades, while Garp and Sengoku had frowns on their faces for a different reason. "What did you do with the Tenryubito, Naruto?" Garp questioned, only to flinch back from the dark glee in those draconian eyes, making their stomachs grow a cold pit as the child looked over Yamato with a bored, practiced eye. "I executed them for ordering my parents' death because of their reluctance to follow the ways of the other arrogant bigots in this world, and it seems the women are the only ones who haven't been fed poisonous words of the government," he told them in a voice filled with hatred and malice, making Garp and Sengoku wince at how he described their government and can't help but admire his ways of justice, while Akainu dashed at him with a fist of magma. "I funka!" he shouted, launching a huge fist of magma at Naruto, who looked up with an eerie grin and beeped his arm back. 10,000 tile punch," he shouted as a massive force extended from his fist and literally blasted the fist of magma apart and knocked a screaming Akainu through a forest of trees, leaving a gaping Sengoku and Garp. He turned to the 2 captains with a dangerous edge in his eyes. "Are you going to join him?" he asked amusingly, only to get a raised eyebrow as the 2 shook their heads with a sad look on their faces. "Why would we do this to our own godson, Naruto?" Garp asked, getting a look of shock from Naruto, who was clenching his fists tightly, shaking his head, not wanting to believe this. "Naruto, we never knew about what happened to your parents till you started the rebellion. We had to execute a lot of greedy, ignorant men from the government who were involved with the Tenryubito. Who do you think trained those 2? Sengoku smiled warmly, making Naruto let his swords drop in shock. Look for us after you get stronger, Naruto, then we'll tell you about your parents." Garp grinned, getting a nod from Naruto, who suddenly changed into a golden scaled dragon after sheathing his swords and flew at immense speeds to the place where the Dark King resides to get stronger, leaving a saddened Garp and Sengoku, who went to retrieve Akainu, who had a bruised ego at being defeated by a 6-year-old boy and vowed to capture him. 4 years later. "I wonder what Rayleigh-sensei is doing," he said. "I already surpassed him thanks to my inhuman learning rate and the ability of my Kami no Ishi and God Devil Fruit powers, even mentioned I'm the bane of other Devil Fruit users." The teenage Naruto mused, wearing black baggy pants, black combat boots, a sleeveless tight turtleneck, a violet crystal necklace, his silver white hair flowing past his shoulder blades, while his shoulders had the kanji for tradition and lightning on them, showing the 2 swords are stored in a pocket dimension. His body had a solid 6-pack abs, along with a very athletic form that made many women drool and eye him with lust. Right now he is walking through a forest on some island he didn't know of, only to dodge a massive hand from a yellow-skinned person and looked up to see another with green skin. Both had one thing in common, that was their snake-like look, and watched them back off, showing a beautiful black-haired girl wearing a pink kimono and red heels, 2 pink spotted snakes trailing behind her, and gasped. Seeing his appearance. "Na Naruto-kun?" she asked, getting a nod, and got glumped by a squealing Bo Hancock, making the 2 snake sisters snicker at her, only to sweat at the sweet smile coming from Naruto, who frowned suddenly, making them worried. "Mary-chan, San-chan, come down here now," he said sternly, making them nod sadly, and slithered down the trees and changed back to their human forms, showing 2 very beautiful girls that looked the same age as him. Marigold was excited about taking a certain training method, only for it to get shot down by Naruto, saying she shouldn't sacrifice her beauty for being strong. Touched by this, she, along with her sisters Boa and Sandersonia, trained under the guide of the Amazon warriors till they became very strong enough to fight Marines at a young age. But disappeared for some reason, saddening Naruto, who had to be cheered up by his parents. He looks at the 3 of them, smelling something foul, only for his eyes to burn with rage, seeing something that was removed from his family's slaves that looked like a green eye embedded in their backs, showing the mark of Tenryubito's slaves. "How did you get this?" he asked icily, making the 3 sisters sob on his chest, telling him about how they were captured by slave traders and sold to the Tenryubito on Marriage-wa, only to be freed by Fisher Tiger, which made him chuckle, getting confused looks from the 3 sisters. "Well, Himes," he trailed off, seeing their blushes, which warmed his heart for some reason. "Shadow. I will never do a fic where Naruto is coolest, it's just wrong. That rebellion was started by me, and I worked with Tiger Oji-san to help free my family's slaves." He grinned, seeing their odd starry looks. What happened to Kushi-chan and Minato? Sandersonia asked only to gasp, seeing his eyes look hollow like he lost all will to live, and spoke in an empty voice that made their hearts ache for him. Murdered by funking marines. He roared in his dragon voice and began smashing down trees using his fists and legs, his bottled emotions bursting forth, tears running down his face, all the hate, sorrow, and despair flowing out freely, making the walking by animals mourn for his loss. Even the forest seemed to cry for him. As for the three sisters, they had to hold him down to stop him from taking his life. "SHH, Naruto-kun, we're here, you have us," Sandersonia said soothingly, but is boiling with rage at the ones who killed Naruto's family and felt even more enraged, knowing that the Tenryubitos are behind this. Boa and Marigold weren't too far behind in Sanders' way of thinking and were planning to get stronger to avenge their Naruto's family, which made them blush at that thought before glancing at each other and made a silent agreement to share him, not knowing Naruto can read minds, and had a very faint blush before his face turned serious. "Girls, be still," he said seriously, getting nods as his hand lit up in a golden aura and pressed his palms on Sandersonia's and Boa's back, making them moan at the heavenly feel of his hands as the foreign feeling got stronger before he took his hands off of their backs, getting a gasp from Marigold, who pointed toward their backs in awe and happiness, making them look and cried tears of joy seeing the mark of slavery removed, and proceeded to kiss him deeply, even going far as to use their snake-like tongues for good measure. "You know, if you keep doing that, I might not be responsible for what I might do." He smiled seductively, making the three sisters shudder in excitement and curse their young age before hearing a jovial voice. "Mary-chan, San-chan, Boa-chan, where are you?" A tan-skinned man wearing a red monk robe torn on his right side while his other arm is covered by a tightened rope, making Naruto's widen, seeing the red eyes and spiky hair. "Oro-sama," he murmured in respect and awe, getting surprised looks from Boa and her sisters, while Oro looked at him in surprise, along with another man that made him grin brightly at his favorite idol. He has long black hair, brown pants and black boots, a dark green shirt showing off his broad muscles, his hands wearing brown leather guards on them, and a sword that had a sharp edge and a blunt edge on it, but the thing that made Naruto recognize him was the white long coat with red trims, the kanji for Heiko Sajuro Shi. Heiko Sajuro the Shi, also known as one of the most dangerous swordsmen, stronger than the greatest sword mistress Mahaka Dracula. He said in respect and awe, seeing his two favorite idols who gave him curious looks but were looking into his eyes and flinched seeing the blankness in them, making them wonder how a child could be like this. "How do you know about us, kid?" Heiko asked, raising an eyebrow, eyes wandering to the markings on his shoulders, getting an amused look from Naruto, who tapped the tattoo containing Yamato and got wide eyes from everyone as the sword appeared in his hand, while Heiko got a look of recognition. "You're the heir of the Uzumaki Namikaze family," he said in awe, looking at the one sword forged from a dragon's fang that was said to have the power to cut through time and space. "You are Oro, the grand master of the art known as Senjutsu, and was heard to have tied one of your arms to give your opponents an edge against you, since your power and speed were too much that you accidentally kill your enemies." He ticked off on each finger, getting jaw drops from everyone, even Oro and Heiko, at how smart he is, even they know information about them is thin. "What are you two doing in Wano country? It must be to have a life of relaxation," Naruto asked, getting another set of surprised nods from the two men. "We were tired of having to deal with pirates and marines coming after us, to me and Oro to their ranks to have better manpower over others. Suffice to say, we had to take out a lot of them and found a home in Wano country as guardians to your girlfriends," Heiko said with a teasing grin, only to get a raised eyebrow from an amused Naruto at his attempt to embarrass him. "But the best you got?" Naruto asked bluntly, making the man face a fault, while Oro and the others laughed their asses off at Heiko, who sported a tick mark before laughing along with them before turning to Naruto with a serious look. "Naruto, what are you doing out here by yourself?" Oro asked calmly, trying to get a read on Naruto. Naruto's eyes turned deathly cold, making the two men flinch at the sheer coldness in his eyes, held only by the most dangerous men like Whitebeard and Mahaka, eyes looking for its prey. "I seek to kill every last Tenryubito and marine for causing the death of my only family," he said coldly. The ground began to become covered in ice, while the ground cracked violently, while a massive weight pushed down on everyone, even going as far to make the two men exert a lot of strength to stand. "You possess the legendary Kami no Ishihaki," Oro said in awe, getting bulged eyes from the others except Naruto, who nodded before putting his powers back under control, allowing them to move. Naruto sighed, rubbing his hair in irritation at how he lost control of his emotions, making them realize he trained himself to keep his emotions under control, making them look at him with sadness at such a young, kind boy having to grow up at such a young age. "Kid." Naruto looked at Heiko at full attention. "How would you like to train under me and Oro? We both agree that the Tenryubito are too corrupt to be left alive, well, except the women and children, since they have more common sense than their male counterparts," Heiko said, getting a nod from Naruto, who thought the same thing. We heard about the rebellion on Mariagewa said that some silver-haired gods slaughtered all the marines and male tububitos that were on the island and beat Admiral Akainu. Hiko trailed off before seeing a look of dark glee in Naruto's eyes making his eyes bulge out their sockets. That was you, wasn't it? He accused, getting a smirk from Naruto. I don't deny it, and I'm proud of the revenge I got for my two-sen and ka-sen. He said with no remorse, getting confused looks from Boa and her sisters, while Oro nodded at him in respect. What happened on Mariagewa, Naruto-kun? Boa asked curiously. I led a rebellion against the Tenryubito and Marines on Mariagewa and killed every last Marine and Celestial Dragon that had a hand in my parents' demise. Each chuckled darkly, making Boa and Sander blush and feel hot at the dark tone in Shi voice, who knew he could sound so handsome with that tone, while Hiko gave him an exasperated look. He had seen some scary people in his days, but Naruto beats them all hands down. Hiko's eyes suddenly turned serious. Naruto, we warn you, this training will kill a lesser man. Do you want to continue? He asked in concern, getting a chuckle from Naruto. How would I fear being hurt a lot if I didn't inherit the godlike stamina of my family, along with the powers of the Raijin fruit? He asked amused, getting shocked looks from everyone again, to hear that a 10-year-old was the user of a god fruit said to have granted its users godlike powers, along with enhancing them to superhuman levels with absolutely no weaknesses. So let's bring on the 5-year training. Naruto smiled sweetly before dashing at the men who got into their respective styles, both grinning in anticipation, while Boa and her sisters went to do their training to help Naruto's goals. These years will mark the birth of Raijin no Naruto. Time skip 5 years. Royal ship. A teenager wearing a black suit that seemed to radiate power, with a fur collar around the collar and sleeves with designed silver and gold dragons on the back and down the sleeves, and black fingerless gloves on his hands, twirling a coin between his fingers over and over again. I wonder what Taka-chan is doing back at her mansion. He hummed in thought, looking past his silver-white hair before going for a walk, leaving blushing women in his wake and angry husbands and boyfriends, before an explosion sounded off, not deterring him in the slightest, only to hear a loud argument in the hall, and came upon a group of thugs about to punch a barrel open, only for the hand of a woman to uppercut the pirate in his chin, launching him back as soon as her face showed. Naruto's eyes widened a bit, recognizing his childhood friend and crush. Fujiwara-chan, he whispered, getting the long black-haired girl's attention at her nickname being called, and gasped with a blush on her cheeks, seeing the one who she thought died on Mariagewa. She cried for months at her crush being possibly dead. Ryu-kun, she whispered elegantly with tears rushing down her face. Luffy had a black sports bra covered by a black trench coat, black jean shorts hugging her beautiful curves with 2 black sharp sabers strapped to her hip, along with a gun holstered at her back, along with 2 sandals on her feet. The most interesting thing is the straw hat on her head. Who the hell are you, bis? The thugs yelled with anime shark teeth, only for the air to grow cold, looking toward the source to see Naruto walking toward them, the floor cracking and groaning with each step, making a purple-haired girl nervous and blushing at the intense look in his eye that made her legs feel like jello. Did you call my Mujiwara-chan a bis? He asked in monotone, making Luffy grin, knowing these assholes are about to meet a painful ass-kicking. I did. What you gonna do about it, Gaki? One of them shouted loudly, getting in his face only to be launched into the air by Naruto's foot, alerting the others to a speeding projectile in the air, smashing into a pink ship beside a blue one, leaving 2 cowering pirates watching Naruto walk toward them with a predatory smirk, cracking his knuckles, making Luffy cheer him on, making them whimper pitifully. Any last words? He asked darkly, getting low-pitched squeaks. Not the face. They pleaded, getting an evil grin before screaming like girls as he beat them bloody, leaving 2 twitching masses of flesh, and a satisfied Naruto who sighed in content, glad I got all that stress out in one go. He smirked, getting a pout from Luffy, who wanted to help him relieve his stress her way, only to blush at her perverted thoughts. Shaking her head, she stepped out of the barrel before turning to the purple-haired girl named Kobe, who was looking at Naruto blushing, which caused a sly grin to spread on Luffy's face, only for Naruto to cut her off. Fujiwara-chan, we are at the wrong place and time to tease a girl about her fantasies of me. He scolded Luffy, getting a childish pout from the female pirate who grabbed Kobe by her shirt and looked for some food, since she's been inside that barrel for who knows how long, and found the cellar and began filling her stomach while asking Kobe questions, who he found out was very timid and shy. Ko-chan, is there any reason why you are with Alvida of all people? Asked an incredulous Naruto, who frankly was not impressed by the wail of a woman, not one bit. Even Boa at her age can kill the idiot with a flick of her wrist, and watched as Kobe explained as to what happened on an island, that Alvida was looking for a cleaning girl and was singled out by her friends and taken by Alvida. How would you like to train under me, Ko-chan? He smiled warmly, making Kobe cry tears of happiness before burying her head into his chest, sobbing tearfully before pulling back. Yes, Naruto-sama. She said, getting chuckles from Luffy, who felt a drop of dust fall on her hat, making her blink. She looked up in confusion. Smash. So this is where that slut Kobe is. Tell me who's the strongest pirate in the world. Kobe. A fat walrus of a woman, Alvida shouted arrogantly, only to see Kobe grabbed by a silver white-haired boy along with a girl wearing a straw hat and burst into the air, landing on the deck, making some pale seeing him. "I can't be him." One of them stuttered, fearfully getting looks from everyone including Alvida. "Who is this punk?" One of them asked arrogantly, making him gulp. "He's Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze." He breathed out, making their eyes bulge at the heir of one of the noble families out in the East Blue. He's also known as Ryujin no Naruto, the user of the god fruit, the Ryujin no Mi. He is also a master swordsman stronger than Heiko Sajuro Shi and Mihaka Dracula of the Shichibukai, and is the apprentice of Heiko Sajuro and Oro, the master of Senjutsu fighting, and is responsible for slaughtering thousands of Marines and male Tenryubitos, for murdering Minato, Namikaze and Kushina. "Uzumaki," he said before passing out, foaming at the mouth from fright, leaving a very scared pirate crew, while Kobe and Luffy are looking at Naruto worried, only to see an impassive look on his face and boredom. "Whatever. Kill them now." Alvida shouted angrily, getting nods from the brave pirates who charged them with a war cry, not seeing the aura of a golden dragon behind Naruto, who had a cold smirk on his face and his fist become covered in a giant white sphere, but only Luffy saw it and smirked. "They are as good as dead," she thought, grinning. 10,000 tile punch. He punched the air, launching a beam of gravity that hit the incoming pirates, who had no time to dodge, were crushed under the massive force, causing bones to snap and blood to splash everywhere, which made Kobe kind of pale, but managed to swallow down the bile rising in her throat. "Anyone else?" he said lazily, already sensing someone above. "Eee." One of the pirates yelled crazily, stabbing downward, only getting a dark grin from Naruto and Luffy. Bang. Bang. Squelch. Squelch. Naruto and Luffy quickly drew black-colored matchlock pistols that had dragon designs on them and fired two shots that literally blew his head and chest apart, making the others scream in fright, while Kobe looked on unflinching, not wanting to disappoint her new sensei, while Alvida glares at him with rage in her eyes and charges with a war cry, swinging her spiked club down at Luffy, only for her to rip it, much to the shock of the others except Kobe and Naruto, who are grinning smugly. "An. Luffy will not be a devil fruit user, she will basically be on a level fit to beat Kizaru at full strength, so sorry, but no rubber girl, ha." Luffy smirks darkly before punching forward, stopping an inch from Alvida's stomach, who looks on in confusion, only for it to morph into extreme pain and agony as 3 deep blows were landed in her stomach, but the strength of them literally blasted her through the air, landing into the water, making her crew's jaws drop in disbelief before looking at a smirking Luffy fearfully. Naruto suddenly whistled Luna. He shouted to no one, only for the water to move, and to the shock and disbelief of everyone else, a white-skinned sea queen with the symbol of a purple moon on its forehead and its violet eyes lit up, seeing Naruto before moving toward the boat, quickly making the pirates take cover, except for Kobe and the other two watching Naruto get licked all over by the female sea queen, making him laugh, patting her on the head. "Oh, did you miss me that bad, Tsuki-chan?" He cooed, getting mules of pleasure from the sea queen at his petting of her before spotting Kobe and Luffy and began eyeing them up and down, getting scandalous looks, knowing she was seeing if they're right for him, and gave him a nod which he snickered at, causing Kobe and Luff to glare at an innocent-looking Luna. "Let's head to the next island, we need to have some dinner, but we have to be discreet due to the Marines controlling that island," he said seriously, getting nods, not seeing an orange-haired girl looking at him with greed and curiosity, before Kobe and Luffy boarded on Luna and shot off toward the island under control of Admiral Morgan. "Uzumaki Namikaze, huh?" the girl mused before following them. 2 hours later. The beautiful shell town did not have its normally happy atmosphere, now it only showed depression and fear, thanks to the corrupt Marine Captain Axe Hand Morgan and his pompous son Helmeppo, threatening the civilians with his father's name at all who disagree with him. The bar was rowdy as usual and was silenced by 3 people walking and a purple-haired girl. A black-haired girl and a silver-white-haired teen that radiated power and respect, making quieting them completely, eyeing him with fear, while the Marines were eyeing him suspiciously. "Bartender, can you get me and my friend some dinner, please?" Naruto asked softly, making the women in the bar blush brightly at the smooth tone in his voice that sounded like heaven and could say he was drop-dead gorgeous. "Seems you're already attracting more women, Ryu-kun," Luffy teased, getting an annoyed sigh from Naruto, staring at Luffy with a deadpan look. "Not my fault, I was born with looks of a Bishinen, not like you or Ko-chan are complaining," he accused, getting indignant huffs from the 2 girls. "What does it take to make him blush, geez?" The bartender came by with a plate of sushi and onager, making Kobe and Luffy drool, while Naruto gave them an amused chuckle before handing the bartender a bag of money, making her eyes widen. "Please sir, this is too much, I can't take all of this," the bartender pleaded with the handsome boy who just ate a piece of shrimp. "I am not going to be like other arrogant nobles and not help this town, that is 500,000 berry, and I want you to have it, no questions asked." He looked at her sternly, making her nod, silently crying tears of joy at this young man wanting to help this town. "Thank you, sir." She bowed to him, getting a dismissive wave. "I can't stand seeing such lively people live this way of fear and depression, it's demeaning and disgusting," he said boredly, getting looks of respect from the others including the Marines, only for their attention to be drawn toward a nervous-looking orange-haired girl carrying an onigiri walking toward the wall. "Where is she going?" Naruto asked curiously, getting sad sighs, making his eyes narrow, wondering how far the world government has fallen, and heard them explain about a green-haired woman carrying 3 swords. That was just eating, only for a boy named Helmeppo to try and steal food from the others inside, only for her to strike him with her fist and ended up getting tied to the post in the marine yard. After the explanation, Naruto's finished the rest of his food before standing up, much to the confusion of others watching him walk out to the door. "You two stay here, I'll be right back," he ordered, getting 2 slow nods at the dark tone in his voice before walking out as the door closed. "Is he actually going to free that woman?" one man asked, getting a nod from Luffy. "Trust me, Naruto-kun has a very deep hatred for the world government and the Tenryubito for causing the death of his parents." She spat the 2 names out like poison, getting confused looks from the group of Marines, wondering why such a nice-looking boy harbors such hate for 2 of the largest organizations. "Why is that Luffy-san?" the bartender asked, getting a sad look from Kobe and Luffy. "Tenryubito hired some captains from the Marines to poison his parents to death when he was only 6 years old," she said sadly, clenching her fists, causing the Marines and civilians to gasp in horror before looking at the door with worry. Luffy suddenly chuckled darkly, scaring them. "You know, it's funny that they had a noble family killed just because they were fighting for peace for all races, even fishmen," she said amusingly, much to the shock of others. Only the Marines got it and shook with fright, getting confusion from others. "You mean he's one?" trailed off in awe and hope, getting a nods from a smirking Luffy. "Who is he?" Kobe demanded, wanting to know more about Naruto. Luffy grinned. "Naruto Uzumaki, Namikaze, the dragon god and butcher of Tenryubito." She cackled at the paling faces of the Marines. "You mean he led the rebellion on that island and massacred all of them with Fisher Tiger?" Kobe breathed out in awe and respect. "Yes, all just to avenge his only parents," she smiled sadly. "I hope he wipes those arrogant nobles out completely." One Marine spat, feeling disgusted that his own comrades would do this to a young boy, getting nods from others. "But Naruto watched a young girl climb over the wall and offered food to a green-haired woman who in his mind was stunning even with the developed muscles, and narrowed his eyes seeing an ugly-looking blonde-haired teenager wearing a fancy suit with a blonde afro take the food from the girl and spit it out, and ordered his men to toss her over, getting a sorry look from one of them. "Just tuck yourself into a ball to soften the impact," he whispered to her, getting a sad nod, and tossed her over the wall, only for Naruto's gloved hand to catch her, much to everyone's awe, including the green-haired girl, who can't help but feel attracted to him and felt a sense of familiarity. "Where have I seen him before?" she wondered before seeing him jump down, cracking the ground before strolling toward them with a cold look in his eyes that seemed draconian to her, while the Marines are shaking badly. "Who the hell are you? Do you know who I am?" Helmeppo shouted arrogantly, causing Naruto to stop, turning his head to him. "Beggin' trash," he said coldly before smacking him into the tower with his sheath, turning him into a speeding bullet, causing a loud commotion inside, getting jaw drops from the Marines and starry eyes from the little girl, while the green-haired girl is staring at him with tears running down her eyes. "Yuzu-kun," she murmured. "Zora-hime." He smiled at her before he cut apart her restraints, just as she hugged him tightly. "Why did you leave, Yuzu-kun?" she demanded, getting a sorrowful look from her childhood friend. "I had to go back home since I finished my sword training with you and your friend, but my parents died because of the Tenryubito." He said the last part venomously, getting soothing words from Zora. "Be right back, Zora-chan, I'll go get your swords," he said before blurring through the doors, heading up the stairs, appearing in the hallway filled with Marines who spotted him and ran at him with swords held high. "Hide Mitsurugi Ryu. Ryusen, lightning dragon flash," he said coldly before slashing forward as a dragon of lightning burst forth, tearing through the dying Marines at inhuman speeds, cutting and electrocuting them at the same time, and exploded, leaving a bloody hallway. "How dull," Naruto drawled, sheathing Yamato before running toward a room at the end of the hall, and blanched as he saw a room covered in the most girlish color. "Pink," he said, gagging before spotting Zora's swords, and smirked seeing the 3 swords together, knowing she mastered the Santoryu style and wanted to be the strongest in the world, and picked them up before jumping through the window with a crash, landing in front of awe-stricken Zora and grabbed her swords, strapping them to her waists. "So you interested in joining a crew with me and Luffy-chan?" he asked seriously, getting a mock-thinking pose from Zora, making him stare at her curves before looking up to see a teasing smirk on her face, making him chuckle. "Sure." She shrugged before grabbing his shirt, which felt rough in her hands, and pulled him close to her. Tell your Mujiwara-chan that she'd better not get in the way of my goals or we will have problems alright. She asked sweetly, getting an amused chortle from Naruto, wondering if he always attracted dangerous women before hearing a loud booming voice. Who the hell killed my men? A blonde-haired man with a metal jaw and an axe hand demanded, looking murderous with a smug-looking Helmeppo glaring at Naruto with hate, getting an uninterested look from Naruto, making him screech and rage at him. Would you mind shutting up, you pompous brat? Your voice sounds like bombs going off on a chalkboard. He said lazily, getting snickers from Zora and the other marines, making his face redden with rage. Kill him now. The arrogant man demanded, getting hesitant nods before shooting a barrage of bullets at Naruto, who dodged them with inhuman agility and reflexes, leaving a smoky aura in his wake, deja vu anyone, before reaching the marines. He jabs one in the neck before backhanding him, causing his head to explode. Dodging a slash, he launches a palm strike, destroying his heart, leaving him to crumple down dead, before dodging a pincer maneuver of two swords, before grabbing their throats and crushing them their windpipes, leaving them gasping for air before falling forward dead, leaving 5 charging marines looking at him with arrogance and rage. He slowly unsheathes Yamato before slashing the horizontally and sheathing it slowly with a click, causing the marines to freeze. Dark Slayer style. Dimension/barrage. He said demonically before the marines screamed from being split in two, leaving a pissed-off Morgan and a cowering Helmeppo. That's it, I'll kill you myself, Morgan roared before charging Naruto with impressive speed for someone she size, and was about to reach him, only to feel someone standing on his shoulder and look to see Naruto's foot glowing with a white sphere and slammed his foot down. Splat. Ah. He screamed bloody murder as Naruto's kick caused his entire arm to explode in blood and gore, causing the marines and Helmeppo to faint, along with pissing themselves in fear, while Zora cackled madly at the swordplay her crush is showing, while he walks back to Zora and saw Luffy and Kobe arguing with her. I am telling you, Naruto-kun only needs me. Luffy shouted at Zora, both women smoshing their heads together, light 9 crackling between their eyes, while Kobe is trying to calm them down. Strawat Baka, he is the heir of a noble family, he is allowed to have more women who love him, you baka. Zora screeched at Luffy, who is shaking her head in denial, only for Naruto's voice to stop them. Zora-chan is correct, Mugi-chan, it is the law of my family, so I have to do it, but I will only have women and girls who love me for me, not my money or power. He said, looking at her, getting a grumbled agreement before spotting a rage-driven Morgan dashing at Naruto's back. Naruto, behind you. Kobe shouted, only to see a dark smirk on her crush's face, who suddenly drew his katana with a green aura coating the blade. Hide Mitsurugi Ryu. Kuzuyusen 9 head dragon flash, he shouted, dashing at Morgan with the kanji for dragon appearing behind him and disappeared, causing 9 flashing lights to appear around Morgan as he appeared in a crouch, sheathing his sword slowly. Can you hear it? He whispered ominously as the wind blowed. The voice of the wind, he finished darkly as Morgan suddenly screamed, exploding in a fountain of blood, covering nearly everyone in it, before flicking the blood off of Yamato, and walked back to Zora and the others, only to get a heated kiss from Zora, who is really horny right now, from seeing Naruto kill like that, causing Kobe to blush, seeing them kiss like that while Luffy pouts at not doing that. First. I don't know about you guys, but I'm in need of a shower. He said before running to a motel to clean himself, with the others following him with laughs sounding through the town for getting the blood and gore. This marked the start of the massacre of Shell Town, marking the second massacre since the one on Mariagewa. Shadow. Will you finally finish that chapter? Took me a while due to my forgetfulness of the islands and jazz. Naruto. No biggie bro, at least I killed those bastard marines and those arrogant nobles for Kasan and Tusan. Shadow nods, already agreeing with him before hearing a knock on his door. He walks to it, opening it only to see Zora, Penny, and Luffy arguing with each other, getting a tick mark making Naruto snicker. Shadow. Shut the funk up and take that shit somewhere else. Zora, Luffy, and Penny. Yes, Shadow-sama, we soi. Shadow and Naruto sweat drop at their mood swings. Shadow. I know I'm going to be asked questions, so fire away guys. Naruto. Okay, question 1, will there be any other characters that have been turned into girls? Shadow. Yes, you will meet one of them in the next chapter and will be like your very own fangirl. He snickers at Naruto's paling face. Shadow. Okay, next. Penny. When will I meet Naruto-sama, Shadow-sama? Shadow. You'll meet him soon, but it will be a surprise, so sorry, no spoilers. Next. Zora. Will Yuzu-kun learn my Santoryu? Shadow takes a thinking pose before a light bulb clicked above his head. Shadow. Absolutely, what kind woman wouldn't want their dearly beloved to learn the same style as them, though I will have him learn some styles from different anime, though I'll give you and the readers a hint, they use physical energy to destroy and cut the body. Naruto gains a look of recognition and was about to shout the answer, only to see Shadow draw his sword Kageheim, making him gulp at the dark glare, getting a satisfied nod before turning back to the crowd. Shadow. I understand others are asking about updating my other stories, and let me say do not rush me, I am like Maelstrom Bankai and Tidem King Naruto, I have patience to take my time before updating, so please chill with the demands. He glared at the readers who nodded meekly before turning back to his smiling self. Shadow. Also I would like to say I will be doing challenges for crossovers of Naruto and Beelzebub, which in my mind has a pathetic canon, no offense to the creators. Naruto. I like your idea of me being the Juubi and all, but who will be wanting to be with me because of my cold interior? Shadow smirks evilly, making Naruto nervous. Shadow. Maybe your human sister maybe. He shrugs, getting blushes from various readers who read incest stories, while Naruto holds in a nosebleed. The door is kicked open, showing fangirls with his name on it, getting a vein bulging on his forehead before he football punts them. Shadow, leave me the funk alone already. Fangirls, we love you, Shadow-sama. Naruto and other readers give Shadow sympathetic looks, since fangirls are the bane of their existence. Shadow, thank you for the questions, please send thanks to my best friend Challenger and my idols Maelstrom Bankai and Tidem King Naruto for inspiring me to do godlike challenges. Jana. Shadow vanishes in a blaze of black fire. Naruto. Peace out people, please review for my bro Shadow. Naruto disappears in a swirl of white flames. Hey Garp. Sengoku shouted, getting the powerful marine's attention, and walked into his best friend's office to see a smug smirking Sengoku holding a piece of parchment that is actually a wanted poster. What is it, Sengoku? Garp asked boredly, getting a snicker, making the old man irritated before Sengoku handed him the parchment, and when he saw it his jaw dropped to seal level, cracking the floor, causing Sengoku to fall out of his chair, laughing his ass off. Name. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. Age. 16. Sex. Male. Appearance. Tall, silver blonde hair, tanned skin, black clothing. Abilities. Unbeatable swordsmanship, godlike strength, reflexes, speed, senses, along with possessing mastery of Haki. It is unknown to which type he uses. Aliases. Blade Devil, Bahamut, Dragon God, Tumubito Slayer. Crimes. Slaughtering of Marines on Mariagewa and the killing of Captain Axe Hand Morgan, and taking the wealth of the Uzumaki Namikaze family and injuring Admiral Akainu. Bounty. 500 million berry. Plea on sight. Only admirals have a chance at even injuring him. Is known to be traveling with 2 females, keep an eye out. Garp looked up with an amused look. Injure him. He said with mirth at the thought of his godson being injured. He can take on all the warlords and win hands down if he wanted to. You know Akainu is going to take every chance to capture Naruto-chan. Sengoku drawled lazily, with Garp nodding seriously. It was known that Akainu was a very prideful admiral, and to be beat by someone so young hurt his ego badly. Garp snorted and said. Like that hothead could actually take Naruto on. He took out high-class marines and nearly every Tenryubito single-handedly. Tell me, how will Akainu be able to match against that? He raised an eyebrow at Sengoku, who looked sheepish. It also said 2 women and one happens to be Mujiwara no Luffy. Sengoku spoke in a teasing tone, stopping Garp cold in his tracks with his hands clenched at his sides while steam blasted from his nostrils. It seems I will have to warn him about doing anything with my granddaughter. He thought sinisterly with a very dark aura around him, causing many marines walking by to scream and run in terror, while Sengoku just sweat dropped at his best friend's parental fury before going back to his paperwork. With Naruto. Naruto-kun, I'm hungry. Luffy whined, making Naruto sigh softly as he leaned back against Luna's neck while they rode toward the next town. It was called Orange Town. Hopefully they'll find some place to rest since they've been traveling for 4 hours straight. Naruto-kun, when will you be able to train me? Kobe asked with her cute black eyes looking at him. When we can get a ship that will allow us some room to move around on. He explained, getting a nod from Kobe, and noticed Luffy drooling while looking into the sky and looked up too to see her looking hungrily at a lonely pelican. Naruto noticed and realized what Luffy was about to do. Luffy-chan, Matt. He was too late to stop her from rocketing from Luna's back toward the pelican, jaws wide open like shark teeth, only to yelp as she was grabbed up in its break, causing Zora to break out laughing at Luffy's situation. Even Naruto's eyes showed amusement before seeing the pelican carry off Luffy to their destination and told Luna to speed up. Something tells me there's going to be trouble in Orange Town, Naruto muttered and closed his eyes till they reached land. Orange Town. Get back here, Bis. A overweight pirate roared in fury and rage as he and 2 others chased a orange-haired girl wearing a white and blue striped shirt and a pair of tight shorts and shoes, along with a 3-section staff on her back, while her face had a huge smile like she accomplished something big. Nami was cracking up on the inside as she ran, carrying a huge sack slung over her shoulder, courtesy of her latest heist. This time her target was Buggy, the clown of the Boogie Pirates, and she managed to steal the entire crew's loot right from under their noses, though she was a bit saddened she didn't get to meet that silver blonde Adonis she dreamed every night about him, with not so innocent dreams. Aya. A voice yelled from above, making their heads snap up as a black blur crashed toward the pirates, kicking up smoke. "Itai. I hope Naruto-kun doesn't get mad at me." Luffy muttered as the dust faded away, showing the figure to Nami, who was very irked. She had a bigger chest than hers and had a twitch in her eyebrow. "Naruto-kun." She growled inwardly before masking it and put on a fake thankful smile. "Thanks for keeping those pirates off my back," she said thankfully, with Luffy waving it off like it was an everyday thing. "They're the bis's getter." Another pirate shouted out loud, only for his head to explode in gore and brain matter from Luffy's customized matchlock pistol, with the barrels smoking. Well, she wasn't even looking at the now deceased pirate. Well, Nami was shocked on the outside. On the inside, her jaw just dropped to ground level, cracking it at the show of marksmanship the young pirate showed. "Nami-san, why are you robbing Boogie the Clown?" Luffy asked in a stern voice that made Nami feel small. "Because I can and want to," Nami answered in an arrogant tone, getting an amused look from Luffy, who was about to speak only for a familiar silver blonde-haired Adonis to speak. "Luffy-chan, what have I told you about attacking defenseless birds?" Nami shivered at the sweet tone in his voice, yet it felt so right to her, and it made her feel aroused. "Not to Naruto-kun." Luffy stuttered while chuckling nervously. "Honestly, Luffy-chan, you get hungry all of the time and choose the closest thing to eat. Troublesome." Naruto drawled boredly, stepping into view with Kobe and Zora, while he kept his gaze on Nami, who felt her heartbeat faster at his intense eyes that hold hidden rage and hatred so much it made her chest constrict, wondering how such a young guy could have such emotions like that. "We meet again, Nami-hime." Naruto smiled charmingly, making Nami blush at the honorific to her name. "How did you know who I am?" she asked curiously after getting her blush under control. Naruto just pulled out a wanted poster with Nami's face and name on it, making her face drain of all color. "Impossible," she whispered in fear. "Apparently the last ship you robbed belonged to a Tenryubito." She shivered at the venom when he said the name of the legendary nobles and got a bit more curious. "Why do you act like you dislike the Tenryubito?" she asked, not knowing she treaded on a sore subject, and she noticed when Kobe, Zora, and Luffy took several steps away from Naruto with worried glances as chuckles came from his mouth that sounded so evil, angered, and broken it sent a severe chill down her spine. "Those nobles, as you call it, had my Ka-san and Two-san Minato, Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki murdered, and I was really traumatized by their deaths," he said in a bitter tone that spoke volumes. While Nami's heart went out to him, but the next part made her blood run cold. "So for my vengeance I slaughtered every single marine down to the last one and killed every Tenryubito there with no remorse," he replied in a cold tone that made Mihik sound like a snowball in comparison. "Don't worry, I spared the women since they haven't been infected by their male counterparts' disgusting ways," he said without a hint of shame for what he did. Nami just stared at him with a mix of sadness and pity. Someone like him losing his family at a young age and turned into a cold-blooded killer, only to make the void even bigger in his heart. Naruto walked past everyone with his eyes shadowed, hiding the sad cold look in his amber gold eyes, while Luffy looked at his back with extreme sadness, wanting to comfort him, yet can't find any courage to do it. "Matt." Naruto stopped automatically and turned his head slightly with an emotionless look in his shadowed eye which held slight curiosity. "What?" Nami shifted nervously, wondering if making this decision will be worth it. "It's not like Arlong will agree to the deal, and besides, me being a thief is the same as being a pirate," she thought before looking at Naruto. "You guys need a navigator, correct?" Luffy and the others nodded while Naruto just kept his stoic look. The only indication is the slight curling of an eyebrow. "Not really, though we could use an extra one." He shrugged while staring off into space. "Let me join your crew?" Naruto's eyes widened by a fraction before he schooled his features. "What is your purpose? I know a lot of people would want to arrest me for killing their precious nobles," Naruto said, rolling his eyes boredly, while Nami winced again at his distrust, while Luffy and the other two girls watched the exchange with furrowed brows. "I want to help my hometown. It's under control by a fishman named Arlong," she said sadly, with Naruto's eye narrowed in thought, remembering the rude fishman he and his parents met one day in King Neptune's palace, and he knew from the start the man was nothing but trouble waiting to happen. "I see, I knew Arlong would be trouble, but no one except Shirahoshi-hime believed me." Naruto sighed in annoyance. "Shirahoshi-hime?" Kobe blinked, with the others blinking in surprise, while Naruto rubbed his head with a wistful smile on his face that spoke of a bright, happy person who he once was. "Shirahoshi-chan begged Neptune-sama to wed both of us just 2 months after we met, and she was already in love with me," he said lowly, with a lone tear trailing down his cheek. Luffy gawked at him in shock. "You mean the princess of Merman City is your wife?" she yelled in disbelief, causing the others' heads to snap toward him with wide eyes. "Yes, my parents even encouraged it." He deadpanned at her gawking looks before turning back to Nami. "Okay, you can join us, but let me make something very clear." His voice turned ice-like while his pupil thinned into a draconic slit. If you even think of betraying me to the Marines or to Yubito, you will wish I left you to the jaws of the Sea King territory." He whispered in her ear, causing everyone to shiver in fear at the punishment. Not even a Marine would wish that on someone. No one even came out alive from passing through Sea King territory. "Now let's go find us a place to stay," he said with an eye smile, making them face fault. Shadow. Lol, get rickrolled. Before running to catch up with him, walking, taking in the sights of Orange Town, and found an inn for food and sleep. Naruto was about to enter only to hear a whistling sound that sounded like it came from the air, making his eyes narrow, before a part of the town was engulfed in an explosion that was bigger than ones caused by regular cannon. "It's Buggy," the mayor yelled, causing the citizens to panic and run around for safety, including his crew, while Naruto stood there as explosion after explosion occurred till a purple ball smashed into the wall beside his head, causing his hair to blow everywhere from the wind pressure, while he stood there with a calm face. "Naruto-kun, look out." Nami yelled in worry and horror as Buggy Ball approached his still form at a fast pace, causing her to run, hoping to save her captain and love interest. Naruto turned his head toward the others. "Watch closely, my crew, this is your captain's power." He yelled over the explosions, clutching his fist as it is covered in a red aura as the projectile closes in on him, and he swung his fist, and to their shock, the Buggy Ball disintegrated instantly from the contact, becoming nothing but dust on the ground, completely harmless. "Sugoi." A female citizen squealed with hearts in her eyes, with many other females squealing in a similar way, picturing Naruto as a handsome knight in their minds, while Zora's hand twitched at her swords and noticed another one heading their way. "Here comes another one." Naruto just tilted his head up slightly before grabbing the cannonball with his bare hand, getting louder squeals and cheers, while Nami was inwardly doing a jig, already knowing she made the right choice. "Nah, why don't I give Clown Boy back his little toy?" Naruto asked in a dark tone, with his golden eyes glimmering with sadistic glee, which Nami and Kobe copied and started cackling evilly in a way it scared Luffy and Zora, who moved far away from them. "Why, yes, it is only fair that you get your own form of retaliation, Naruto-kun," Nami said sweetly, which Naruto tilted his arm back and simply threw it slightly, but because of his godlike physical prowess, it went sailing like a speeding bullet. Boom. Naruto grinned, hearing the loud stream of enraged curses coming from a pissed-off clown pirate. "Let's go pay this team a visit." He and his crew walked toward the location of the smoke, wanting to see if the so-called crew is worth being left alive. Buggy ship. How the hell did the ship get a giant asshole ripped into it, and who the hell launched the Buggy Ball back? Buggy screeched angrily at his cowering crew as pirates in the background ran around frantically carrying water and repairing equipment to fix the damage to the ship. "I swear if I find who did that, I will rip them to funking shreds." He scowled in anger, since he thought this town would be easy pickings and he would be unopposed. "So this is the infamous Buggy the Clown, former student of Goldie Roger." A cool voice spoke up, getting startled looks from everyone including Buggy, before looking up, seeing a silver blonde-haired man sitting on the mast, legs crossed into a meditating position with a huge sword sheathed into an orange sheath with symbols engraved on it. "This sword will be a surprise, and it comes right from a familiar game and looked very heavy." "Who are you, brat?" one of the crew demanded, only to get a snort from Naruto as he looked down at them like they were bugs needing to be squashed, while many other shadows appeared on the zip lines of the ship, getting scared looks from the crew. Naruto Uzumaki, Namikaze, captain of the Heavenly Dragon's crew and killer of the Tenryubito. He spoke in monotone, with their blood freezing cold hearing that this kid's name is that of the cause of the massacre of Mariagewa. Luffy Mugiwara, first in command of the Heavenly Dragons. Luffy grinned mischievously. Barona Zora, second in command of the Heavenly Dragons and its Santorio Sword's mistress. She grinned in a demonic way with her two swords unsheathed. Kobe, student of Naruto Uzumaki, Namikaze and his ace. The lavender-haired girl smirked confidently. Nami, navigator of the Heavenly Dragons. Buggy growled at her she was supposed to be working for him. Naruto turned his head toward Buggy, who began to sweat under the cold stare of the Uzumaki Namikaze heir. "Buggy, you will leave Orange Town or die along with your crew painfully," Naruto replied in a cold tone, which Buggy sneered at. "Moji, get him." A large lion leaped at Naruto, aiming to bite his head off, only for a hand to snatch the lion up by the back of its neck, showing it was Naruto, who faded into an afterimage looking at the lion, which had a subdued look with a stern look. "Sit." Moji sat down in the mast seat, obediently, making the pirates gawk at him in disbelief. "He tamed a lion just by giving it a look," Nami shouted inwardly. "I am giving you one last chance, Buggy-san, leave or perish. I don't like killing unless it's necessary," he ordered, but he knew Buggy is too evil to stop his wrongdoings and was correct when Buggy yelled at his crew to kill them. "Zora." She nodded before blurring, appearing in front of the oncoming crew when suddenly 10 of them fell to the ground with cuts littering their bodies. "Vittorio lie. Shishi Sunsen," she said, sheathing her sword, much to Buggy's anger at seeing his men cut down so easily, before ordering Kabaji to attack her. The Baji, who was on a unicycle, rushed at Zora swinging his hidden sword, only for it to get blocked by her katana, and he tried to go for a sidekick, only for her to block it with a knee, getting a smirk from Zora seeing his troubled face. Didn't expect for a swords mistress to not work on the one weakness swordsmen always overlook. She grinned before they began a battle of swords and kicks, while Luffy engaged two groups of them using her forged black steel sabers, destroying them in under a minute, while Naruto sat upon his perch watching the battle with a bored look as he watched his girls demolish their opponent single-handedly. "Aren't you going to help them?" Nami asked, casting worried looks towards Zora and Luffy, and noticed they weren't even getting damaged. "Trust me, Nami-hime, those two have trained since they were little to fight against the stronger marine ranks. Luffy is at the level where she can fight Kizaru Borsalano to a draw, and that's saying something, since he is a user of the light fruit, which is a Loja class devil fruit, yet he doesn't know my weapons, and Luffy's are completely drenched in the essence of sea stones." Naruto whispered the last part in her ear, getting a shocked look from Nami at her new captain's intellect and planning. "You forged these swords you carry, including the ones Luffy-chan is wielding?" She breathed out, getting a smug grin from Naruto, who nodded without any shame. "To think he isn't even grown up yet," she thought with pink cheeks that Naruto noticed and gained a twitch in his eye. "Again, I wonder if I got my charms from Tusan or Kasan. It's like beautiful girls are coming toward me like a moth to a flame," he muttered lowly in an annoyed tone. Naruto pulled out a cigar, putting it in his mouth and lit it using a gold flame on his finger, and breathed in and exhaled with a calm look on his eye, only to raise an eyebrow at the stern look on Kobe and Nami's faces. "What?" he asked bluntly, his mother's trait showing as a tick mark appeared above his eye, while they pointed at the cigar in his mouth. "That is not good for you, Naruto-sama." Kobe spoke in a rare show of sternness, while they seemed to ignore the explosions, battle cries, clangs of swords, and deaths around them, including a frothing at the mouth Buggy, who was clenching daggers between his fingers. "Kobe-hime, if you haven't forgotten, my body is beyond a human's capabilities and therefore doesn't possess its limits or invulnerability to illness or disease, meaning ergo I cannot get sick." He emphasized on the word, making Kobe look sheepish, except Nami was looming over him with a scary expression making him sweat drop. Hi, I'll put it away, keep your panties on, Nami-hime," he said in irritation, with Nami having perverted thoughts, thinking about giving him a surprise before shaking those thoughts away, seeing her crush look at her with blank eyes with a look, saying "I know what you were thinking," making her face light up with a huge blush. "Boy. Taicho. We're finished." Luffy and Zora yelled, sitting on top of a pile of either dead or unconscious boogie pirates with excited grins on their faces, while Zora had a bored one before both appeared on the zip line, once again leaving Buggy and another two groups of his crew alive on the deck. Naruto nodded with clapping hands, making the two powerful women blush at his praise, while Nami had a jealous look at them, impressing him before it stopped suddenly and everything grew heavy, and she saw Naruto grow a bloodthirsty grin as his eyes seemed to dilate more like an animal's. "Since you refused my offer to leave Orange Town." Buggy and his crew shook at the tone filled with dark amusement as he stood up to his full height, making them sweat and pale at the bloodlust and killing intent emanating from his body as it appeared as wisps of golden energy. "Break by 3 days' grace. Your lives are forfeit," he said, gripping his sword sheath, and pulled the blade from its scabbard, showing the silver-white blade that seemed to glow with an orange blazing aura around it, wailing dark, "I think, tell me if I got the description right," the length being that of an Itachi, and seemed to hum with power. Naruto's grin grew wider before pointing the deadly blade at them. "Entertain me now," he said in his draconic voice, causing one to panic before charging at him in a fit of desperation, sword held high and swung at Naruto's neck, only for his head to separate from his shoulders and fall down instantly like a puppet's, string severed, getting gasps from Buggy's other men. He never moved from his spot. How that was impossible. Buggy stuttered in slight fear while Naruto smirked mockingly. "I did move, it is just," he blurred with a boom, appearing beside Buggy with his arm around him close to his ear. "You're just too slow to see it," he finished in a whisper as 5 of them screamed. The reason was that their bodies were instantly shredded with orange lines appearing diagonally and fell to pieces on the ground and were instantly consumed in white flames. "Dragon fangs of death," he said as his hand seemed to hum with the air itself, along with flecks of gold. "I seek in my own style of fighting that allowed me to rip vacuums or distortions in the air itself and can even use it in conjunction with wailing dark, that is why I am called Bahamut." He smirked and dodging a backstab from a cowardly pirate before maneuvering the sword's path toward another, letting it stab the man's comrade, instead getting roars of frustration and anger. "Ha ha ha ha. What's wrong getting frustrated?" he asked with dark glee and amusement aimed at them before the two groups charged at him with reckless abandon. He smirked and sheathed his sword and clenched his fists with 2 spheres of clear light, encasing his fists, getting a pale look from Buggy. "Wait, stop." His warning was too late as one after another had parts of their bodies blown off as Naruto's fists were launched at such immense speeds, even Whitebeard wouldn't be able to count them correctly. He bobbed, dodged, weaved, countered, punched, kicked, jabbed, and threw every single strike aimed at him back at either his attackers or their comrades, causing fear and doubt to increase in the buggy pirates. He was like a violent maelstrom ripping through them with monstrous force. Naruto suddenly surprised them by jumping back but paled when his grin turned downright frightening and saw him put his hands and fingers into a weird position and a huge aura to cover his body, causing the surface to crack from the pressure of the aura. I will allow you the privilege of seeing one of my personally created techniques I used to destroy an entire fleet without moving. He said emotionlessly as his eyes bled into complete demonic pupil-less red. Buggy looked around frantically to find cover before sneaking away discreetly but Naruto saw him and narrowed his eyes darkly at the cowardice and betrayal. Buggy showed he was supposed to help his nakama, not abandon them. Naruto turned back to the cowering pirates with a look of sadness and closed his eyes in acceptance for the massacre he is about to commit for the third time since Minato and Shell Town and snapped them open. Afternoon Tiger. He roared as a massive wind pressure shot forth in the shape of a roaring tiger that rushed toward its prey with unrelenting speed and engulfed the screaming pirates and caused massive explosions. Boom. Far away from Orange Town on a ship with the head of a large white whale, a girl wearing a pair of short shoes and a tight black shirt with toned muscles and long black hair and onyx black eyes that looked like an older Luffy looked up with a startled look with food crumbs on her mouth, saw the explosion along with many others, including a huge muscled man with a long white mustache. "It's Haim," she whispered in remembrance of the one who took care of her and her little sister and has been searching for him ever since. The white-bearded man looked at the girl with a raised eyebrow, never having seen the loving expression on one of his crew's faces before. Who would that be? Ace Musum? The man named Whitebeard asked curiously with Ace looking at her father figure with a soft smile on her face. "It's Naruto-kun, old man, the one who stole my fiery heart," she said with watery eyes but Whitebeard and his crew gasped in shock while he had slightly widened eyes and stared at the huge explosion. "Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, the dragon god." Diamond Jozu whistled in amazement. "Isn't he the slayer of Minato and Shell Town along with being a supporter of Monkey D. Dragon?" The others shouted in shock with Ace's eyes bulging to epic proportions. Whitebeard whistled with an amazed expression to think someone that young had such influential friends and along with the fact he hates the world government and couldn't blame the kid. The deaths of Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki spread it to every corner of the Grand Line, even King Neptune City has heard of it and literally everyone who was an ally of that powerful respectful family were out for blood against the Tenryubito and the world government and went as far to say they allied with Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. "The world government has made an enemy of someone many times more dangerous and ruthless than me and Dragon, it seems," Whitebeard said with a smirk, making some shiver hearing a teen being more ruthless than the leader of the revolutionists. "Those assholes are getting what's coming to them for killing Minato Oji-sama and Kushina Oba-san." Ace spat coldly with flames flickering off her body, making most of the crew shiver and shake, knowing if she spoke in that tone, someone was going to die in a sea of flames. "May Kami have mercy on their souls if Ace gets to them." Whitebeard muttered in mock worry with Ace who heard it snorting fire from her nose like a dragon. "Kami-sama won't be enough to save them from minor Naruto-kun's wrath." She chuckled darkly, frightening the others out further. "But Naruto?" Naruto stared at the huge hole in the ship as it started to sink. He paid it no mind as he scanned his view looking for that coward buggy and suddenly sensed him coming from above. "I bastard." He cackled arrogantly only to scream in pain and agony due to getting smacked by wailing dark scabbard, launching him skipping across the floor and smacked hard into the wall, cracking it. "No one has snuck upon me ever and it is possible if I decide to let them." He drawled boredly with half-lidded eyes as he walked toward Buggy who got up off the ground and suddenly split apart, getting a raised eyebrow from Naruto. "The Bara no mi, huh? You picked the very wrong strategy against someone like me," he said in a lecturing tone, pissing the arrogant pirate off even further. "Shut up, trash, and die. Bara festival." He yelled as instantly all body parts except the lower half came at Naruto, with different kinds of blades from every direction, not seeing his smirk, before he shocked everyone again by twisting in a very indescribable way, dodging every projectile coming at him that would make a professional dancer green with envy. "What the hell?" The clown screeched in rage and fury at his most powerful attack being dodged. "There are 3 mistakes you made when fighting me, Buggy," Naruto replied with his arms crossed. He held up one finger. "One is that you did not heed my warning even after learning of my ruthless reputation." He held up a second finger. 2, you were arrogant enough to assume everything were false and did not take into account my godlike speed that is unmatched, along with the fact my girls took out most of your men single-handedly. His eyes hardened like frozen fires as his third finger went up. "And 3, your most fatal mistake was that you abandoned your nakama when I used my afternoon tiger attack to save your own life, and in my opinion, those who break the rules are scum, but those who abandon their friends are worser than scum." Obito may have been a bit of a lunatic, but his words were very inspiring. Naruto finished with pure confidence, leadership, determination, and power flowing from him, making Luffy and the other girls feel extremely touched to know their captain had such faith in them. Nami looked at Naruto with a determined smile on her face. I knew I made the right decision in following you, Naruto-kun. You make being a pirate and a thief a lot more easier to bear, and I'll be sure to help you avenge your parents," she declared in her thoughts. Buggy just sneered pitifully at the teen's words. "Nakama. Those things are useless, the only thing that matters in this era is power." Naruto's lips twisted into a sneer worthy of a dragon. "Then you are a disgrace to your sensei's teachings, Buggy." He spat coldly at the piece of trash before him, spitting on his teacher's words. Buggy saw her and screeched in fury at this brat disrespecting him and charged recklessly to his death, only for Naruto to appear in front of him midway with his hand encased in whitish blue lightning that seemed to crackle ominously, and he saw the cold eyes of his killer. "Lightning blade," he shouted before thrusting his lightning-encased arm all the way through Buggy's chest, missing his heart on purpose, wanting to cause the man pain before killing him. "Ah!" Buggy screamed in agony and untold amounts of pain as he was impaled by the hand of lightning, as the lightning seemed to cook him from the inside out, causing blood to flow from his eyes, mouth, ears, and nose, showing he was in pain before his eyes widened in horror, seeing the look of immense glee in Naruto's eyes. "You are going to beg for me to kill you, Buggy," he whispered in the dying pirate's ears before the lightning flickered into silver lightning that seemed to increase the amount of pain in Buggy's body, which caused him to move around frantically to get free, only aggravating his wounds even more, amusing his opponent more. "My silver lightning is much more pain-causing and deadly than my blue and white lightning. One spark is enough to cause the heart to explode," he exclaimed, much to their shock and awe, while Buggy's was of frantic fear and horror that he might die today. Naruto increased the voltage slowly every few minutes, enjoying the screams of this disgusting bastard impaled on his arm as his eyes reminded him of the smug looks on the faces of his parents' murderers, and that filled his being with anger, remembering the ones responsible for his life of hardship and emptiness. Naruto pulled his hand out before snatching Buggy up by his throat, getting a strangled gasp as his hand curled around his neck tightly and threw him far out into the air over the sea, getting confused looks before it turned to shock as they watched his eyes turn a dark blue and open his hand, causing the sea to part around Buggy. "This is the power of the Dragon God," he shouted before clapping his hands together, causing two huge tidal waves to crash into a screaming Buggy, instantly crushing and drowning him from the pressure of two massive amounts of water crashing into him from both sides and instantly sinked him down to the coral reefs. "He definitely is the Dragon God," Kobe whispered in awe and admiration, seeing her savior's strength. "Hey, are you girls coming?" Nami and the others looked to see Naruto standing on a crimson-colored boat that seemed to be bigger than a battleship and more armed with a black flag with his dragon form as the symbol. "Is that our boat?" Nami pointed out in disbelief. "Yes, she is. Welcome, ladies, to the Ryujin." He grinned before dodging the swinging sword of Zora and Luffy, who had shark teeth and angry eyes. "You had a boat all along and didn't tell us about it," they roared in unison, with Naruto leaning on the rail with mischievous eyes twinkling with mirth and laughter. "It was too much fun messing with your sexy asses." Zora and Luffy blushed lobster red in embarrassment before screeching and chasing after a cackling Naruto through the city, while the citizens roared with laughter, seeing the display as Naruto seemed to pinch them on the ass every time they missed to catch him, making them even more angry. Nami just giggled in amusement with Kobe but were inwardly happy to see their captain smiling once again. "I'm glad to be a part of the Heavenly Dragons now, Kobe-chan." Nami grinned at her female companion, who just gave a thumbs up and a nice smile, before watching Naruto come back laughing with a smiling Luffy and Zora as he jumped through the air. "I will always treasure my Heims," Naruto thought, looking at the smiles of Nami, Kobe, Zora, Luffy, and Luna. He chuckled as Zora and Luffy grinned at him before looking up, seeing the smiling faces of his parents that spoke of pride, joy, and happiness. "I'll meet you one day, Ka-san, Tu-san, but only when I allow myself to meet Kami-sama. Until then I will bring peace to this world," he whispered with determination in his eyes. "Oi." Naruto was snoring quietly in his bed in his quarters, wearing a checkered seafoam black and green Jinbei-styled haori, red pants and a black robe with black shoes, his hair tied into a ponytail in the back. "NGH. Goddammit, Luffy-chan, what have I said about shouting when I'm trying to nap?" Zoro snickered as the door slammed open, revealing an annoyed Naruto having been woken up by Luffy's excited shouting. "Woke up on the wrong side of the bed again, Captain." The silver blonde gave Zoro a flinty gimlet eye that shut the green-haired swordswoman up, but she still snickered. "Keep laughing like that, Zoro-chan, and I'll beat your ass black and blue even worse than before in your swordsmanship training." The captain was of course still continuing his own training. His master Sajuro would find someone way to bring total havoc and wrath down upon his head if he neglected his training just because he had a 500 million bounty on his head. The greenette gulped, sweating a bit, and nodded. Sure Taicho, Captain, the noble son turned swordsman captain, nodded curtly as he walked up to Luffy, his arms folded. This better be good, Luffy, or you know what's gonna happen. The raven-haired girl gulped and blushed heavily as her womanhood tingled in her pants, and she merely pointed at the next town they were approaching, causing him to blink. Kobe. Nami. What do you guys see up ahead? Looks like a town with a big mansion at the very top of the hill. Kobe called from the bird's nest. Looking up ahead, Naruto tapped his foot, thinking this over. Okay, so far we got 2 swordsmen, a navigator who's still being dodgy and joining for some reason. I can cook myself, but having an extra cook on hand wouldn't hurt. Then we have Kobe being the cannoneer, so what's missing is a sniper and a doctor. Mulling on these thoughts, Naruto waved his hand, giving the sign for them to dock at the harbor. Stop right there, pirates. Naruto raised an eyebrow, looking over his shoulder to see a pointed-nosed teen with puffy black hair, black eyes, wearing a brown pair of overalls with boots and standard goggles on his head. You better turn back now, I got 100 men lying in wait. Naruto looked at the boy with a plainly raised eyebrow. Is this dude for real? Zoro, Nami and Kobe shared an equally disbelieving look. Even Kobe, being the youngest girl here, could see the guy was so full of shit. I'm Captain Usopp of the Usopp Pirates. Naruto blinked, both eyebrows jumping up high, immediately knowing whose kid this was. Well, small world, child of Usopp. Flashback 5 years ago. Naruto wore a sleeveless black shirt, white pants with a red sash with the legs ending at his shins, with a pair of sandals on and a red scarf-like wrap around his head, and 2 black gold wristbands on his left and right, with his blade sitting on his shoulder. What was he doing exactly, you may ask? Drinking. It was his parents' anniversary that he was drinking to in remembrance. It was also the time where he was more cold and merciless, and luck was never usually on his side on nights like this, for example. He had to deal with persistent idiots that don't know when to funk off. Baka's always being so noisy. Naruto stopped drinking with an annoyed sigh while tapping his finger at his table, grumbling a bit. Ever since he ate the god fruit, he couldn't really get strong for more than a time period of 2 minutes. Haha. Makino, mind getting us another drink? Hearing an obnoxious voice, Naruto glanced over his shoulder, only immediately citing a certain pain in the ass his teacher Haiko told him was a great drinking buddy and sparring partner. Being a reclusive but also someone who hated such laziness, the Prince of Mariagewa snorted in contempt at the man being unable to hold his alcohol. Eh? Many looked in Naruto's direction, who didn't seem to be enjoying the festivities. Hey punk, there's something about your face I don't like. A tall bruiser of a man with a scruffy beard, thick barrel-muscled chest, beady black eyes and a bald head with tanned skin and lots of brigand tattoos, he practically towered over Naruto, who looked uncaring. This offer, I'll kill you, I am not in the mood. Some watched this confrontation with interest as many started to recognize the Mariagewa butcher. Oh, you're that brat, huh? I'll make a lot of money bringing you in. Suddenly several silver flashes of steel zipped around the man. Immediately all of his hair fell off. In front of his face was a black steel katana pointed at his throat by the young teen. I said leave me be now, the man screamed like a girl running, getting snorts of laughter from the man's humiliation. Oh Kushina ni, how would you feel seeing your own son drinking like this? What no one knew was that Shanks was in fact Shanks Uzumaki, the older brother of Kushina Uzumaki. He was the one hit hardest by the death of Kushina herself, aside from her wayward son. I wonder if his older sister even bothered coming back from the Grand Line, probably not, knowing the Gorosei damn bastards. Shanks growled inwardly, but eyed Naruto, who finished his sake and got up, leaving, which upon nudging Usopp and Beck, they got up to follow him. And unbeknownst to his nephew, that bear of a man and his crew followed, aiming to make an example out of that upstart that embarrassed their captain. With that punk as drunk as he is, he'll be easy prey, was the thoughts of the brigand's crew. Naruto, however, kept walking as the moon shined down from the sky. I'm still not strong enough, I know I can't go after all of them as I am now, but damn it. His frustration boiled within him, feeling his power and skill was still not enough to sail to the Grand Line in the future. Unfortunately, Itachi, Haiko and the others never realized that Naruto was suffering from survivor's guilt, depression and insomnia from the nightmares of Mariagewa, his mother, his father dying in his arms as they struggled to breath. It made him clench his fists harshly, nearly drawing blood. So, butcher of Mariagewa? Shanks didn't even flinch when his nephew's blade was in his face. What the funk do you want, red-haired Shanks? I told you last time I wanted nothing to do with anyone. Usopp and Beck kept their hands on their weapons. Shanks raised his hand, gently pushing the blade down. It was clear Naruto had not been sleeping well, if at all. The black circles, eyes darting everywhere, and the closed-off iciness in his eyes. Naruto-chan, calm down, I am not your enemy, but you need to calm down and relax. I know you want revenge, but if you keep going around doing what you're doing, you're going to make more than just the marine brass pay more attention to you, and then Garp and Sengoku will have two to the line to giving the imprison on side order. Naruto frowned. He had fought off a lot of marines and pirates that wanted him for their own means. Some had given him quite the fight too, especially Belmere. He's right, I've been getting way too brazen, damn it, I need to pull back and go ghost, that cunt Hina's power is annoying as shit. He thought, grimacing at how many mistakes he was beginning to make, and sighed, looking away only to twitch his eye past Shank's shoulder. Seems we got company. Beck turned his head and clicked his teeth in annoyance. Yeah, this is going to be one of those days. Shanks glanced around and Yasop and Naruto glanced as well, noticing more than just 10 men surrounding them. Boring. The two swordsmen brandished their swords as Beck and Yasop opened fire. It was really a boring fight, the idiots were barely even at 10,000 Beely bounty apiece. But the silver blonde got some valuable wisdom and grounding morality from Shanks, who took the young man under his wing for a while. Flashback end. It's been some years since then. He returned his gaze to Usopp and quirked a bored eyebrow, not really looking amused. If you have 100 men, then shouldn't they have shown up to help, considering you're up against someone like me? Naruto stepped off the boat, his shoes making quiet steps as he approached. Like his suspicions of the boy, Usopp had the slightest beginning of perspiration starting to form on his skin, showing of his nervousness and fear that he was going to be attacked. Stay back. He leapt back with quite a jump while simultaneously pulling out a slingshot. Oh ho. Looks like he's taking after you after all, Yasop Oyaji. With a smirk, Naruto didn't even stop his walk, even as a perfectly accurate shot from a steel iron ball the size of a marble coming at him like an actual bullet, but to the youth's shock, his shot was dodged by the shift of the body. Nice shot, but. He vanished, startling Usopp, who searched around wildly with his slingshot. Nami and Luffy were trying not to crack up, knowing the lost prince was having fun at the silly youth's expense. Zoro snorted. Boo. Usopp would violently deny that. He shrieked like a little bis who had a pair of too tight panties forced on him, as if his balls were in his throat, practically launching high up in air, but his pants leg was yanked down, making him fall down to earth hard on his ass. Tai. Naruto wore open amusement on his face at Usopp's whining. I might convince him to join my ship, if only so to provide entertainment and be my sharpshooter, if only to get rid of that habit of telling lies to those who wish him no harm. With that kernel of thought done with, he finally spoke. If I wanted to kill you and pillage this place, I would have been more than capable of on my own, punk. He shook his head, turning his back to Usopp as Zoro and the others disembarked from the ship to catch up to their leader, sniggering at him. That was pretty funny, Longnose-kun. Usopp squawked, turning red in embarrassment at the childish nickname. Who the hell was that guy? He huffed, feeling his ego had taken a nasty hit. Sure, he lied a lot and was well a voyeur, but he had pride in his sharpshooter skills, and to have them evaded so easily, it made him more than upset. But he was honestly a coward and knew how to cut his losses. Besides, that guy looked a little too familiar, like someone Kaya would have dreamed about. Huffing at the thought, he went off to go see her to keep her company at least. If that damn Kuro doesn't snoop around. Funking hell, how he hated that slimy son of a bis. But Naruto. So that's Uncle Yasop's kid. He didn't really seem like much. Luffy scratched her head. She honestly expected a bit more confidence from the red-haired pirate's famous sniper's son. The boy's been raised in the sea, so it's understandable that he's not really all that strong, braver, that filled with common sense. Naruto said as the waitress delivered them a decent meal of roasted meat and drink, ignoring the use of pirates that were just three brats, with their introduction being so idiotic it was just funny. You runts are not pirates, you don't have a ship, nor do you have anything going for you all that much, not to mention, the blonde looked at them sharply, causing them to shrink down slowly. You have no idea what it's even like to go out on the sea. Stick to enjoying your childhood, because you get a childhood only once. Luffy squeezed Naruto's hand under the table gently as Zoro did the same. Nami was honestly seething inside at the conceited conspiracy that caused the death of the greatest two people that her mother had looked up to. With them gone, her mother had been arrested and taken away, but allowed to live under Nezumi's command. That funking rat bastard, I swear if Hess touched a hair on mother's head, I'll feed him to a sea king. She at first didn't think much of Naruto because she thought it was all hogwash, but the more she was around him, the more she realized he was one of those types to not flaunt his strength openly. Oh, by the way, if you're looking for Captain Usopp, he's probably up talking to Lady Kaya at that mansion up there. Luffy followed their fingers' direction and raised both eyebrows at the pristine white mansion. Well, that would definitely stand out. My amusement-seeking radar is tingling. She usually got that feeling whenever her beloved Naruto was going to embarrass some smug, arrogant asshole. With Kaya. I wonder who these people are. Based upon Usopp said they are either pirates or travelers. This captain of theirs, such beautiful hair and eyes the young woman had on, a white dress, a cute button nose, high cheekbones and sweet luscious pink pouty lips, a pair of early budding DDD cups, with a shapely waistline and hips with slender long legs and shapely ass underneath. Hey Kaya-chan, looks like that group Usopp talked about is coming up the hill. A 5'11" young woman with orange hair, brown eyes wearing a pair of torn blue jean pants, a bikini-style bra with sea blue white cream-colored accents and a wide-brimmed dark leather hat on her head spoke. Her bust was also pretty much just as large as Kaya's wider. Her hips much more wider to hers that would have naturally been at home on a mother. This was Risa, she pretty much looked like a carbon copy twin of Nami the cat burglar. Back. You guys again. Nami ignored the liar only to see Risa and stared. Ni-chan. Risa looked mildly sheepish at her twin's expression. Would it be believable if I told you I got stranded on this island? She was hugged however by her twin sister causing her to laugh. Usopp nearly had a nosebleed seeing the two busty women hugging each other. Naruto smacked him upside the head with an eye roll at how virginal the boy was. I swear Usopp, if I have to turn this gaki into a man myself, you are going to He was interrupted from his thoughts by hearing a cold and oily voice speak. Kaya-sama, just what exactly are you doing getting involved with this riffraff, especially the town's local liar? Risa sighed, pinching the bridge of her nose as everyone looked at a slender man standing there in butler's clothing. Nami clenched her staff that was hidden in her skirt as her Arlong radar blared in her head. This guy gives off the same asshole feeling he does. His overall attitude, she could feel him looking down on them, it made her dislike this man who was apparently Kaya's butler. Plahater Usopp clenched his fists glaring at the butler who always looked down upon him and mocked him for being a dreamer. Why does Kaya even have this bastard as a butler? Clahater's words made Kaya uncomfortable, evidenced by how she squeezed her hands, making Naruto frown as he looked at the man. This boy is that son of Abyss's child he sullied Kushina with. The barely veiled feeling of dislike and hate coming from Clahater made Naruto narrow his eyes, glaring back. And just what is the monster of Marriage-wa doing here? He was not going to let this spoiled child devil ruin his plans, not to mention he held this child responsible alongside that blonde bastard Minato. One was because he was of that blonde bastard's genes. The second because in his eyes he sullied Kushina in being birthed by her. That deed should have been his, she would have had everything she could have desired if not for that damned Namikaze. I'm almost tempted to try and pluck his eyes out right here and now, but that bis Risa is still around and is watching, not to mention the brat is not stupid like he should have been. Goro frowned internally knowing the boy had to have some trick up his sleeve that gained him that victory against Akainu, which he refused to honestly believe that some wet behind the ears spoiled prince could beat that marine dog. This snake is getting on my nerves, the silver blonde frowned while keeping a polite smile on the outside. Plahater knew for his plan to work he would need to call an informant of his. If this boy thought some trumped-up title like being called Bahamut made him invincible, then it was time to humble him painfully. Clahater, enough. I will not have you disrespecting my guests in front of me. Kaya's sudden sharp tone took the butler off guard. Naruto grinned inwardly, knowing there was a feisty strong-willed woman in that body of hers. Very well, Kaya-sama. Clahater hid his seething anger at the young whelp, getting a backbone at the worst time of all things before Ace skulked away, not seeing Risa's eyes narrowed on his back. I smell a snake in the grass, seems I'll be collecting another bounty soon enough. Though she knew damn well who that butler was really, but Kaya wouldn't believe her even if she tried to expose him, or the bastard would somehow put on a spin and make her the enemy. Either way, Clahater would get his even if she had to put a new hole in that smug head of his. The end. So how was this part? I hope you like it. And if you like it, share this part with your friends and like the video too. And don't forget to subscribe our channel for daily awesome fanfiction. Okay, it's time for me to go. Bye bye.